AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
They're chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
Musu. And Mr. Toby Tombley. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Tigers have added 4 more transfers via the portal. Terrio's here in 1 hour. A lot to do. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
All right, the portal will close here on Friday. And just as one point of clarification, I know we've said it a good bit for those who maybe aren't familiar. That doesn't mean players have to choose their destination by Friday. It's just the deadline to enter your name in the portal is by the end of the day today. So players can still commit or sign with a team at any point. If they want to be available for spring practice, they have to be enrolled in school for the spring semester. But in theory, could stay where you are for the spring semester and enroll somewhere in June in intersession and then be ready for the fall. But all that to say, we will know what the market is, right? What players are in the portal and available by the end of the day Friday. As the portal closes, there has been an exodus from Ole Miss and some pretty high-profile players. And if you haven't been paying attention in the last 24 hours or so, the narrative out of Ole Miss is that they are blaming Lane Kiffin. They are saying the argument is that Lane Kiffin is tampering, that he is calling Ole Miss players, imploring them to go in the portal. The argument is that Lane Kiffin leaked the contracts of Ole Miss players to entice other Ole Miss players to leave. Never mind the fact that there's any number of people that could have access to contracts. Players, agents, parents, coaches, general managers, boosters, media members. It ain't like this is a secret. But I got a few things that I want to talk about here. And you know, there's this big part of me that wishes that Ole Miss could accept the fact that their coach left them and move on with life with their new coach and whatever is going to be next. They're seemingly incapable. They're the definition of new money. They haven't had success in 6 decades. They really don't know what this feels like, and so they're really struggling to manage. This is going to sound like a shot, and I guess it is, but it's true. It continues to reveal itself. That's why this is so uncommon. This feeling of all of the overlay and the attention from Ole Miss. They can't stop focusing on LSU and Lane Kiffin. And I think it's really their desire for him to fail, not just because they don't like LSU, but they want Lane Kiffin to fail, and they want to elevate Pete Golding as evidence that the success they had wasn't really Lane, and they're all trying to convince themselves of whatever. I mean, 2 months ago, they wanted to build this man a statue. 2 months ago, they had a contract on the table that would have made him the highest paid coach in the country. Now they're trying to convince themselves that the success they had wasn't really his, that he's a narcissist and he's all these awful things. Whatever. And as we discuss this, I want to be clear that, like, I'm not exonerating Lane Kiffin. I'm not telling you Lane Kiffin did nothing wrong, but I'm also not accusing him of any wrongdoing. I'm telling you I don't know. I don't have the answers. But if you're accusing Lane Kiffin of leaking contracts to try to sabotage Ole Miss, is it possible that word of those deals got spread internally by players? Like, you don't think players know what other players make? I mean, I can tell you for a fact, agents talk. I have many, many, many friends who are sports agents who represent college athletes and professional athletes. A giant way that they know what the market is and how these deals are done is by those conversations. Parents of players know what their sons are getting paid. Coaches, GMs, they know what these deals are. The boosters who are asked to pay for these know what the deals are. You think that they don't talk to anybody? You don't think I have conversations with Gordon McKernan's one of LSU's biggest boosters. He comes on the show. You don't think I talk to Gordon? Media members. So where's the leak coming from? It's easy just to point at Lane and go, see, he's leaking to sabotage us. Okay. If that's the case, where's the evidence? If Lane Kiffin is intentionally sabotaging Ole Miss, where's the text message? We got a phone call. We have a recording of a phone call of Lane Kiffin talking about getting Kejuan Lacey and Kevin Smith. Remember that? So where's the text message? Where's the phone call? Where's the email? Where's the voice recording? Where's the on-the-record quote from anybody? A player, a parent, an agent, a coach, a GM, anybody. Walker Jones, the head of Ole Miss's collective, had no problem telling Ross Dellinger on the record all kinds of awful things about Lane Kiffin. What was the quote? Y'all remember that quote? Walker Jones, the head of Ole Miss's collective, quote, "It's unfortunate what's been going on with our players and their former head coach and staff. Having to deal with the pressure making future decisions while trying to prepare for a playoff run is not a sustainable model. Yes, there's a bad calendar and lack of true oversight hurt, of course. But so does poor character and lack of respect for your former employer and players." On the record, Walker Jones. Where's the evidence? Now, the other thing I would tell you is let's assume they're right. Just work with me. Assume that it is Lane Kiffin. That Lane Kiffin is calling Ole Miss players. That Lane Kiffin is telling them what other guys are making. Lane Kiffin is leaking contracts to cause upheaval and get guys to go in the portal. Let's assume it is Lane, okay? I'm not accusing you. I'm saying for the sake of this exercise. You think he just started using these tactics? Like, you think that started today? By the way, Matt Bowers, who is one of the biggest Ole Miss boosters, put out a tweet just a little while ago. It was sort of his take of what's happening right now with all this. And it's a long tweet. And one of the things that he writes is, he says, 4 of the 6 years he was the head coach, Lane was the head coach at Ole Miss, he was encouraged and enabled to go take players from other schools via the portal. There have been guys who had contracts that Ole Miss has stolen. He notes Walter Nolan from Texas A&M comes to mind immediately. So if Ole Miss was somehow expecting Lane would just let every good player stay without a fight, that's just not realistic. Not me saying it. One of the biggest Ole Miss boosters pointing out that Lane Kiffin was doing this same thing while at Ole Miss, which brings you to the point, if you didn't have a problem with him doing it when he was working for you, now you have a problem with it that he's working against you? That, my friends, is the definition of hypocrisy. And if you want to scream tampering because players are going in the portal late, I would like to remind you that every day this week, dozens of college football players have entered the portal. Nick Anderson entered the portal this week. Jordan Seaton, the number 1 offensive tackle in the portal, entered this week. Why? The market. The market. I've said this all week. Miami offered Ty Simpson $6.5 million. That's not even a guess. Ty Simpson said this on the record. Is that tampering? Or did Miami talk to his agent? Which is totally legal, by the way. It is not allowed for a coach or school representative to talk to a player, but every player has a representative. An agent, a family member, a spokesperson to represent somebody, and they can have a conversation about what the market may hold, and that is completely legal. And that happens everywhere with every player, every year, in every program. The folks at Ole Miss don't like the fact that it is happening to them when their former coach was doing this for them successfully for the last half decade. This is the market. Every school is going to lose players. But the real issue I have with this whole thing is, and I don't expect this point that I'm about to make to land with everybody, but the real issue that I have is this general, like, I understand fans on Twitter can throw out accusations, but we all just assume fans on Twitter throwing out accusations are just that. It's fans on Twitter throwing out accusations. Members of the media should be held to a different level of expectation and credibility. The problem I have is with members of the media who cover Ole Miss, who are lobbing these allegations without any evidence. That is the problem. The guy who called Lane Kiffin a hoe, do you remember that? And then Lane Kiffin checked him, and then he pissed his pants on the field, and everybody mocked him for him and memed him. He wrote a piece that said he used the word sabotage. Lane Kiffin is trying to sabotage Ole Miss's roster. And in that piece, he gives not a shred of evidence. He gives 2 quotes of anonymous sources. Actually he's such a bad reporter, he didn't even differentiate if it was the same source or different sources, and didn't give any evidence as to whether or not those people have any credibility in this conversation. I just have such a problem with how journalism has eroded, and it just bums me out, man. Like, I'm a talk show host. My job here is to give you opinions and to entertain. My job is not to be a hard capital J journalist. I went to school for that. I did that for 4 years in news before I got into sports. And so that does guide a lot of the ways I try to approach topics to be responsible. That's not what I do. And I'm very, very sensitive to the fact that it is so hard for the consumer, the fan, to differentiate. It's one of the reasons earlier this week when we talked about the woman in the press conference for Liam Cohen who lauded the coach in the press conference, why I went so hard stance against that. Like, there are journalistic standards, and there have to be lines drawn, and you have to be able to understand on one side of the line, you can trust the credibility of someone reporting, and on the other side, it's entertainment. But those lines have blurred so much, and it bothers me. It really does. And again, I don't expect everyone to understand this. It bothers me because of things like this. And I guess my point is, if you want to write a piece where you're going to accuse a coach of all the things, if you want to put out there that that this person is responsible for tampering, for committing these transgressions, okay, but prove it. What evidence do you have that supports your allegations? Where are the text messages, the voicemails, the emails, the on-the-record comments from people involved with this? Like, where is that? You have that, now we can have a conversation. Short of that, you just sound like a pissed-off fan, passing yourself off as a journalist, and that bothers me. So my point would be, prove it or shut your mouth. Man, I'm very, very, very sensitive to the fact that these lines have blurred so much, and it's hard for fans to differentiate. It is. It's not your job to differentiate. You should be able to go to certain media outlets and believe that they are a credible source of information. It's just not that case anymore, unfortunately. And this is a case in point. So Ole Miss cries because, quite honestly, I believe they can see their path back to irrelevance. The coach that led them to the greatest era they've had in 6 decades is gone. The roster that he had built is starting to erode. And if Trinidad Chambliss doesn't win in court, or if he decides to go pro, they're right back at a 7, maybe 8-win team next year, and they're right back to the irrelevance that they've had for 6 decades. And that scares them, and I understand that. That would suck. But that's what they are, and that's what they're going to be again. Maybe Lane Kiffin is sabotaging him. And if they are, I'd point the finger at them and say, shouldn't have pissed him off. All the many ways over the past 2 months you've tried to embarrass him ever since he left. You're a runt, and he's a pit bull. And the runt slapped the pit bull in the face and got its hand bit off. That's your fault. It's after further review. We are brought to you by our show open every day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of the LSU Tigers, the New Orleans Saints. Of course, our friends over at Mockler Beverage. Man, you're going to be out at any of the parades this carnival season. Make sure you got plenty of delicious ice cold Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of the Tigers, the official beer of the New Orleans Saints. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light. All right, y'all, it's after further review. Let me knock out a quick break. The portal cycle is spinning. And LSU has added 4 more transfers, including a couple from Ole Miss, no doubt, on account of Lane Kiffin's tampering, much to the chagrin of the fake media in Oxford. It's after further review.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Duplessis Builders, duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net. If you haven't done it yet, man, go check it out. Really cool feature on the homepage of their website, duplessisbuilders.net, where you can design your own pool. And if you might think, man, Matt, I would love to have a pool, I just don't think I can afford it, then you haven't checked out Duplessis Builders. Now, Derek will do any type of custom pool that you want to do, no matter how big, elaborate, resort-style pool you want. But starting at for less than $50,000, you can have your own custom pool design from Duplessis Builders. Go to the website, hit the Pick Your Pool tab on the homepage. You'll see 11 different pool designs. Pick out the one that you like the most, hit the Customize button, and then you'll see all the different options that are there for you at Duplessis Builders. What tile you want, what coping you want. The courts, do you want a water wall? Do you want a spray deck? Do you want extra decking? Do you want the ledge loungers? Do you want deck jet, spot tile? Pick it up, the LED light options. It's all there. Pick it out. DuplessisBuilders.net.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
We'll go around the SEC in just a smidge. Terrio's here at the top of hour number 2. We're glad you're aboard with us here. The dead period lifted on Thursday. Visits were allowed to resume, and Lane Kiffin wasted no time having a slew of prospects back on campus, and that has already started to bear fruit. We did tell you on Thursday when LSU landed a commitment from Oregon tight end Zach Grace. Well, the good news continued late on Thursday night. Tigers landed offensive lineman Jamard Jones. We were the first to report his visit from Rummel. Went to Nichols this year as a freshman, more of a project-type player. At 6'3", right at about 300 pounds. Played a good bit for Nichols this year as a freshman, but going to come to LSU, provide some depth, and kind of get your numbers back up. But my goodness, did the good news keep coming, and the majority of it on the offensive line. In addition to Jamard Jones, LSU, so including Jamard Jones, LSU has added 4 offensive linemen just here on Friday. So Jamard Jones was first, and he's a guy that's going to provide some depth. The next name to pop was Sean Tompkins. So Sean Tompkins is an interior offensive lineman from Baylor. We talked about Tompkins a little bit as a guy who was at Baylor, went into the transfer portal, and had committed to North Carolina. Even though that he had been committed to North Carolina, he ends up flipping now to LSU. So Tompkins this year at Baylor ended up playing in 10 games. He started 5 of them at left tackle. He took 446 snaps at left tackle. Again, played in 10 games with 5 starts. One of the things that we told you at the start of this portal cycle was that LSU wanted to add 3 starting offensive linemen, 2 guards, and a tackle. Okay? If go back to the beginning of the portal cycle, that was what we were told. We shared with you. They wanted to add 3 starters. Now, they lost 8 linemen, so they needed to get numbers there, which they now have. But, and we're going to delve into this a little deeper, they've got the numbers now on the offensive line back up to where they need to be. But what they hadn't yet done was bring in starters on the offensive line. What they had brought were guys who maybe had the opportunity to come in and compete, but by and large guys that were depth pieces or guys that you were maybe banking on with some upside. So, for example, when they added Jaquan Sprinkle from NC Central, 2-year starter at the FCS level. Will it work where he can transition and be a starter? Maybe, but he's going to have to come compete. Jacoby Jones. He's been a 2-year starter at the junior college level. I was told they see him as a project. Probably not a guy that they think will contribute in 26, but could be a starter for them in 2027. On top of that, they added 2 SEC transfers. William Satterwhite from Tennessee, 2 years as a backup center, played in 10 games as a reserve, could compete for a starting guard spot this year, but likely the heir apparent at center to Braylon Moore for 2027. Give you depth at center in 26, starter in 27, and then Darren Stray. Darren Stray was a guy that at Kentucky was a highly regarded guy, 6'7", 310, was a backup this year, played in 4 games, took a red shirt coming in, projected to be an SEC tackle, but again, not a starter. They needed to add starters. And my goodness, have they done that here. So they added Jamar Jones as backup and then Sean Tompkins. So Tompkins is a guy, as we mentioned, who started 5 games at Baylor this year, in a couple of seasons there in Waco, now in the portal coming into LSU. After that, they added Devin Harper. Now, this is one that is much to the chagrin of Ole Miss folks, but you probably remember Devin Harper's story. So Devin Harper was a top 100 overall prospect in the country out of Calvary Baptist in Shreveport. He was an LSU commitment. In November of 24, he flipped from LSU to Ole Miss. Can't imagine how a guy that was committed that long to LSU ended up flipping to Ole Miss right at the 11th hour. You don't think it was a duffel bag full of cash, do you? No, couldn't have been. Lane Kiffin tampering? No, that wouldn't have happened, would it? Devin Harper flipped to Ole Miss. He redshirted this year, but the projection was at Ole Miss, they thought Harper was going to be their starting right tackle in 26. So Harper's a guy, very athletic, could play tackle or guard. Now, you've got Weston Davis returning as your starting right tackle, so it's likely not going to be Harper there at right tackle, but he could very well slide in at one of your starting guard spots. Remember, both starting guard spots are open. So I could see a world where Tompkins and Harper become your starting guards here in 2026, and you've got some depth there with Satterwhite, with Jamar Jones, with some of the guys you've brought in, Jacoby Jones, the portal ads that have given you depth could be guys that compete for the job or give you some quality depth in 26. Now, the other big question you had was the other tackle spot, because if you look at Harper and at Sean Tompkins, that's 2 guys that you project who you project would be starters right away. The other one that just came in is Aliou Ba. Now, we told you about Ba visiting LSU a day ago. We had that the news broken over at LouisianaSports.net. Now, Aliou Ba was a guy who was a top 100 player in the country coming out of high school. He signed with Georgia, was at Georgia in 2023 where he redshirted, transferred to Maryland. The last 2 years, 24 and 25, he has been the starter at right guard at Maryland. Now, could Aliou Ba end up being a starting tackle for you? Maybe. But he has been their starting right guard for the last 2 seasons. So you could see a world where Tompkins, Harper, and Baugh, the three additions today, could end up be the three starters that you were looking for. Maybe Devin Harper's your starting left tackle. Maybe Sean Tompkins, who started half the season this year at Baylor at left tackle, is your plug-and-play left tackle. Maybe Aliou Baugh kicks out and plays left tackle, or maybe he settles at guard. Baugh is 6'6", 327. He's a big old dude and probably projects as an interior guy, but could play tackle for you as well. I'd be giving you a total guess as of this point as to how this may all shake out, but I'll also remind you they still got Solomon Thomas on the roster, who's a former 5-star. You have both the Bordelons, Bo and Brett, still on the roster as well. And you're bringing in two very athletic young players in Lamar Brown and Bryson Martinez. Now, Brown has told us here on the record that he wants to play, that LSU was recruiting him to play edge defender. He could play on the offensive line if they desperately needed him. And Bryson Martinez is a gigantic, from East Ascension, is a gigantic human who is massively athletic. Actually played some tight end this year at EA as well. He's that athletic. Basketball guy as well. Great feet, great hands. Prototype tackle. So they've got numbers again on the offensive line. I'll remind you, Ryan Muret has come in as well. He was one of the guys that was committed to Ole Miss, who, when Lane Kiffin got the job, flipped the week before signing day and ended up signing with LSU. And Muret is here on campus now. He enrolled. He's in the spring semester. So, those were your high school offensive linemen that you added, in addition now to your portal offensive linemen. So if you're scoring at home, the portal offensive lineman that LSU has added, as we look at it, you've got the two lower classification guys that we talked about, Jaquan Sprinkle from the FCS, Jacoby Jones from junior college. You added William Satterwhite from Tennessee and Darren Stray from Kentucky. That's 4. Now you've added Jamard Jones from Nichols, which is 5. Sean Tompkins from Baylor, which is 6. Devin Harper from Ole Miss, which is 7. And now Aliou Baugh, which is 8. You had 8 out. Now you have 8 in on the offensive line. So your numbers are whole again. You have those 8 that you've brought in, the 2 starters that you return, Braylon Moore, Weston Davis, put you at 10. The I guess you could count it as 2 or 3 freshmen you have coming in, which gets you to 12 or 13. And then you have the Bordelons, who we mentioned there as well, as Solomon Thomas, which puts your offensive line numbers at 15, which gives you sort of a full room. Now, I know the question everyone is going to ask is, what about Jordan Seaton? And you're talking about the guy who is the number 1 offensive tackle in the transfer portal. And that would be an amazing get. And I've said it before, I'm not going to rule out anything with this staff. They are spending money. I do not believe they are done. I do believe there are more defensive players that they were not intending to get that are in the portal from Ole Miss. TJ Dottery is one of them. Prince Willuman Mielen. I believe LSU is very much in the mix for both of those guys, and I would not be surprised a lick if they added them. They also added Fahim Delane. Montre Delane's younger brother, spent his freshman season, again, a top 100 guy in the class of 2025, spent his freshman season at Ohio State. He picked LSU today. Actually got to see him. He was at lunch I went and had lunch at Stabs today with a client. And as I was walking in to Stabs, Fahim Delane was walking out with a couple of staff members. And then a short time later, he committed. Had to be the crab cake because there ain't no cake in that crab cake. You're welcome, Muse. But so Fahim Delane committed as well. All that to say, they're probably not done on the defensive side with Dottery and Uman Mielen, who I think there's a really good chance both of those guys who have now left Ole Miss, they're in the portal. Dottery was at LSU a day ago. I would fully expect Uman Mielen to be on campus this weekend, and he's got a great relationship also with Lou Spanos, one of the defensive end analysts who followed Lane Kiffin here. That lines up, and I think they're going to make a very competitive offer to get Uman Mielen here. So don't be surprised if that happens. So all that to say, I don't know what financially makes sense. If you can get Jordan Seaton, amazing. And I wouldn't put anything past this staff right now with a guy like Jordan Seaton out there. But he visited Mississippi State. The reports are he's going to Texas next. I'm sure LSU would love to get him to campus for a visit. There's still been no confirmation that that's happening. And if it does happen, a visit happens, we'll certainly pass it along to you. But for right now, the Tigers, 8 linemen out to the portal, now 8 linemen in via the portal. And, if they can make a Hail Mary pass at Jordan Seaton and land him, great. If not, it's what it is. We'll keep you posted. All right, it is After Further Review. We're brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center. 924-2020, 924-2020. You want to see 2020? Call 924-2020 or go to williamsoneye.com, williamsoneye.com. Weekend is upon us, so it's a great time, maybe when you have a little downtime this weekend, to do some research. Go to the website, williamsoneye.com. Schedule that consultation. I want to remind you, the consultation, you can even do this virtually. It's just a fact-finding mission where they're going to take a little information from you, tell you a little bit about what options exist, and then you can make a decision if you want to see Dr. Blake. But you will. Ditch the contacts and glasses forever. Call 924-2020. 924-2020. Go to williamsoneye.com. That's williamsoneye.com. Let me correct myself really quick. This is from Pete Thamel. I just saw this on Twitter. So Jordan Seaton is leaving Mississippi State and is headed to Miami. This was just here within the last hour since we've been on air. Again, this is Pete Thamel. So Seaton wrapped up his visit at Mississippi State, now is not headed west to Texas, instead headed east to Miami. Again, all the word initially with Seaton was Texas, Miami, Oregon would be the schools in the mix. So Seaton going from Mississippi State to Miami. If any other visits get planned, we'll certainly pass it along to you. All right, it's After Further Review. Friday shows are brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Oh, Don Juan is having a cigar rolling event today, literally right now, with our friends from Bocock Brothers. So they're hand-rolling cigars on site at Don Juan in Town Center. So if you're in Baton Rouge, you're knocking off work, go to Don Juan like right now. Have a cocktail, have them hand-roll you a cigar and smoke a fresh cigar right now at Don Juan Cigar Bar. All right, it's After Further Review. Let me knock out a quick break. We'll go around the SEC next.
After Further Review.
Man, there are few things more frustrating than slow internet. Can we agree to that? And I get it. It's first world problems. Our great-great-grandparents would be like, what are you talking about? We had to churn butter with our hands. I get it, Grams, but that's not our life now. We rely on the internet. And when the internet buffers and it's slow, you want to throw your device out the window. You know how to solve that? Rev. REV. Let'sRev.com. 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 They're local internet service provider. 70,000 homeowners and business owners in South Louisiana trust Rev. I'm in that number. Guarantee Media is in that number. Parish Construction and Roofing is in that number. You should be as well. If you've ever thought, I hate my internet company, it's because you don't have Rev. It is time to switch. REV. Let'sRev.com.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
LSU baseball first pitch banquet was last night. It's almost upon us, man. Next Friday, Jay Johnson will meet with reporters as sort of an introduction of this year's baseball team. They'll begin practice and just around the bend be the start of the baseball season as the Tigers look to defend their national championship. 2 titles in 3 years, and you're going to hear it a lot. This very well is likely Jay Johnson's most talented team that he's had during his time in Baton Rouge. As far as depth, quality of arms, 1 through 9, it's going to be a really, really fun year. In any event, because the first pitch banquet was last night, a lot of former Tigers come in town. I saw Kevin Gosman was in. A lot of the members of the 03 championship team were here, including Dylan Cruz and Trey Morgan. And hat tip to our buddy Trey Ledbetter over at Pro Dreams. He's got an autograph signing tomorrow, Saturday, at Pro Dreams on Burbank, featuring Dylan Cruz and Trey Morgan. Now, this is a paid signing. You pay for the autographs. But what a really cool opportunity. You can bring your item and then just pay for the autograph. They also have items for purchase, balls, bats, jerseys, all that good stuff. Again, so it's Dylan Cruz and Trey Morgan. It starts at 2 p.m. at Pro Dreams. If you're not familiar, Pro Dreams is on Burbank near Nicholson. So you know where Walk-Ons is, right? The original Walk-Ons. Well, there's that strip center next to original Walk-Ons. Pro Dreams is in there. And Trey Ledbetter's done an awesome job of building out Pro Dreams. If you haven't been in there, it's gorgeous. He's got a big podcast studio built out in there. There's flat screen TVs, there's wall art, and then tons of memorabilia sports memorabilia and stuff. But they even had, one of the things he had in there last time I was in, the duffel bag that Chris Farley had in his room in the Beverly Hills Hotel when he died. Like that bag, Chris Farley's overnight bag is there for sale. I don't know if it's still, maybe someone bought it, but it was last time I was there. Anyway, really cool spot. And that's tomorrow, Saturday the 17th, starting at 2 p.m. at Pro Dreams. Dylan Cruz and Trey Morgan. If you want to go get autographs, it's courtesy of Fanatics and over at Pro Dreams. Again, it's paid. I believe it's $150 for an autograph for Dylan and $40 for an autograph from Trey Morgan. So you can check. And if you're wondering about the difference in prices, I think Trey was explaining to me it's because Dylan has a Fanatics deal, and so they dictate the pricing and all whatever. But whatever. Really cool event. You want to go meet Trey Morgan and Dylan Cruz? They'll be at Pro Dreams on Saturday, 2 p.m. right there on Burbank. Near Nicholson. All right, it is After Further Review. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. We're brought to you by Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service, ShawBillsTire.com. Going to go around the SEC in just a quick sec. Remember, if the weekend's upon us, as we head into next week, if you need work done on your vehicle, get by Shaw Bills. Brakes squeaking, Shaw Bills. Oil change, Shaw Bills. Tires rotated, Shaw Bills. Need new wiper blades, Shaw Bills. Whatever it may be, Shaw Bills. And they'll sell you name brand tires at wholesale prices. And the way that business model works, by selling you the best tires at the cheapest price, you might think that doesn't really feel sustainable. You have to have profit margin to keep a business open. Otherwise, you're just working for free. But because they know they're going to get you in there to buy the best tires at the cheapest price, but they're going to treat you great. So everything you need on your vehicle for the rest of your life, you're going to go to Shaw Bills. Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service, ShawBillsTire.com. Shaw Bills. We keep you rolling. All right, do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the Oklahoma Sooners.
Quarterback John Mateer is headed back to Norman for his final season of eligibility. He'll bypass the draft. Sooners also announced linebacker Kip Lewis, who is a leading tackler this year. He will return for his final year of eligibility as well. Mateer was a Heisman Trophy favorite at one point in the middle of the season. Of course, broke a bone in his hand, missed a chunk of the season, came back, was never really the same. But Mateer headed back to OU.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
Tight end Lawson Lucky also returning for one more season. Played in 14 games for Georgia this year, made 7 starts, led their tight ends with 24 catches. Lucky will now play alongside his brother Carson Lucky, who joined Georgia as an early enrollee for the class of 2026.
The Texas Longhorns.
Texas got more offensive line help, adding Wake Forest offensive tackle transfer Melvin Siani. This very likely is part and parcel why Jordan Seaton is not now visiting Texas. Siani, 6'6", 302. He's a rising junior. He heads to Austin, having made 24 career starts with 2 years of eligibility remaining.
The Florida Gators.
Florida landed a commitment from Oklahoma State wide receiver Jalen Lloyd, 5'10", 180. From Omaha, began his career at Nebraska before transferring to Oklahoma State. Now he'll continue his career in Gainesville.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Colorado transfer safety Carter Stoutmeyer has signed with Arkansas, 5'11", 210. In his junior season, made 7 starts this year there at Colorado, but now will finish his career in his final year of eligibility with the Hogs.
The Ole Miss Rebels.
And Ole Miss, their transfer class is up to 20 after they added Blake Purchase. He's a former Oregon linebacker, 6'3", 245. This obviously after TJ Daugherty hit the transfer portal. Ole Miss needed some linebacker help. They got a guy. Purchase in his redshirt sophomore season this year in Eugene had 32 tackles. All right, there you have it. That is Around the SEC. We're brought to you by Supper Club. I'll be there tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Eric and I, we had our anniversary, 14th wedding anniversary was on Tuesday. And so we decided not to do the anniversary dinner on Tuesday. So let's do it on Saturday. So we have reservations tomorrow. We'll be there Saturday night over at Supper Club. So hope to see you there. If you are going to be at Supper Club tomorrow night and you see us, give us a wave, shout us out. Love to see you. Maybe have a cocktail or a glass of wine at the bar before dinner. So hope to see you there. Listen, no matter what it is, if you're LSU looking to entertain some of your transfer portal targets, if you're a couple celebrating a wedding anniversary, maybe it's a promotion at work, a birthday, whatever it may be, or just because you woke up today and the good Lord lets you breathe air in your lungs, put your feet on the ground. celebrate at Supper Club, the best dining experience you'll have anywhere. An amazing meal, great dining experience right there on Perkins Road in Baton Rouge. Experience Supper Club. Book your reservation at supperclubbtr.com. Supperclubbtr.com. Really looking forward to being there tomorrow night. Again, if you don't have a reservation, remember, open seating at the bar. And there's 14 bar stools and 7 bar tables. So you can always pop on in to Supper Club, even without a reservation. Have wine, cocktail, great whiskey selection, and dinner at the bar, one of the bar tables as well without a reservation. So check them out, or always get your reservation at supperclubbtr.com. All right, y'all, it is After Further Review. Terrio's here in 14 minutes from right now. Let me knock out a break. We'll wrap up hour number 1 next on AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
After Further Review.
Big hat tip to Gordon McKernan and Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. You've been injured in an accident. It's not your fault. Do what injured people in our state have done for 3 decades. Get Gordon and get it done. But you probably also know that Gordon is a partner in Court to Table. And honest to goodness, true story, I will be at Court to Table on Sunday. So my niece, Sophia, shout out, Sophia Delafano. She's going to be super embarrassed that I just shouted her out on air. Make sure we clip that and send it to her. If you know Sophia Delafano, text her and let her know that Uncle Matt was shouting her out on air. Her birthday's tomorrow. She'll be 15. Anyway, we're going to go to Court to Table on Sunday, play a little pickleball, have a little dinner. And Lane Kiffin was there earlier today. He tweeted, "Spot the ball." There's a photo from the indoor court there at Court to Table, where not only do they have the indoor pickleball court, but also they can convert that into cornhole. They got the shuffleboard table, great bar area, great place to watch sports as well here on this NFL divisional round weekend. It's Court to Table. Gordon McKernan.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
One of the things we talked about earlier this week was the possibility of the New Orleans Saints trading for wide receiver A.J. Brown. Of course, the Eagles season ended this past weekend, the wildcard round, the home loss to the 49ers. Brown and Nick Sirianni got into it on the sideline. Sirianni downplayed it after. Look, we all know A.J. Brown's history there, reading a book on the sideline, whatever. And so the question has come up, would the Eagles trade A.J. Brown, and would the Saints be interested potentially? We went through the odds. The Saints had about like the 8th, according to odds makers, about the 8th best odds to trade for A.J. Brown if the Eagles were willing to part ways with him. For whatever it's worth, Howie Roseman, the Eagles GM, met with reporters for their season-ending press conference. He was asked that question, would they consider trading A.J. Brown? This is what he said.
It is hard to find great players in the NFL, and A.J. is a great player. I think from my perspective, that's what we're going out and looking for when we go out here in free agency in the draft, is trying to find great players who love football, and he's that guy. So I think that would be my answer.
So your answer is, I'm not giving you an answer at all. A.J. Brown's a great player. That's my answer. But are you going to trade him? A.J. Brown's a great player. Got it. That would be your non-denial denial, is what that would if we were correlating our coaching carousel denial questions, this would be a non-denial denial. Remember also, we did talk about A.J. Brown earlier this week with our buddy Ross Jackson from LouisianaSports.net, who has a piece up over at LouisianaSports.net, always free, by the way. And Ross effectively makes the case to say, if you're going to trade for A.J. Brown, you wait to June. Because the Eagles, because of the contract that A.J. Brown has, if they were to trade him pre-June 1, they would eat $43.5 million in dead money. And if you're not familiar, that dead cap money, if you're not familiar, I know I say that term a lot, means even though the player isn't on your roster, that money still counts against your cap. So if they trade him pre-June 1, it would be a $43.5 million hit, which is not really tenable. And the Eagles already have $452 million in dead cap money. The next closest is Cleveland at $248. So what was the Saints is the worst cap situation in the NFL is now Philadelphia. The Saints are at 164, by the way, and that's going to rectify at the end of this year when Derek Carr's contract rolls off the books. Saints will actually have money to spend this year. But that number is effectively cut. They would save, if the Eagles were to trade A.J. Brown after June 1, they'd save $20.1 million against their cap for next year. So effectively, for the Saints, you have to look at it this way. You go into the draft knowing you need help at receiver. If you come out of the draft not addressing that, look, we all said it this year, didn't we? Going into the draft, Saints need a receiver help. They didn't draft a receiver. So they went in free agency and tried to get some help. They traded for Devon Vele. Everything was going bad early. They traded Rashid Shaheed, as we well know. But if they don't get the help they need in the draft at receiver, then maybe post June 1, you're looking at a trade for A.J. Brown. But I think that's all predicated on what happens in free agency, if there's a manageable option, and then what you do in the draft. Look, if one of the best receivers, Tate or Tyson or one of those guys, are available for you at 8, awesome. If not, or the Saints don't value them that highly, okay, then maybe you are looking for someone like A.J. Brown come June and you see what deal might make sense. But financially, he's worth the contract he's got. He's a true, legit, game-breaking number 1 receiver, which you don't have. Are you willing to wait to June? Well, that depends what you do in free agency and the draft, and we'll just wait and see. All right, it's After Further Review, brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Sports Center's coming up. Terrio, after the top of the hour. Stick around.
AFR.
We're brought to you by South Point Volkswagen, southpointvw.com. New and certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge and online at southpointvw.com. I got a text earlier today from my buddy Cord over at Mockler Beverage. His wife was looking for a new vehicle. She kind of fallen in love with the Volkswagen. Asked me who they should ask for. I said, man, Mr. Bill Reinhardt over at South Point. He's sold me and Erica and my parents and my whole family. I've lost count how many Volkswagens he sold my whole family over the years. Cord went by today with his wife. He said the process was so easy. They just finished everything up. Mr. Bill took care of everything. It was great. They test drove this morning, driving off the lot in a brand new Volkswagen Atlas. It's that easy at South Point Volkswagen. Listen, you can shop online, southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com, new, certified pre-owned. You can work out your financing online, see all the different models that they have on the line, or on the lot, I should say, and then drive one today. southpointvw.com.